Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Beansworthy Entertainment. In this video, we're going to go over part one, which is just the noon games for week 10 of the 2023 NFL season. I'm just a guy behind a camera saying what I think is going to happen based on what I've seen this season and the statistics that we are going to go over in this video. With that being said, hope everybody has a fun time and everybody enjoys the video. And if you do, hit that like button. Please go ahead and check out the other content on my stream or content on my channel. I do live streams. I also have been doing this the whole entire season. And if you enjoyed the content, hit the subscribe button, become part of the Beansworthy Entertainment family. Hit that notification bell so you can know when I go live or whenever I drop one of these videos. I am going to be continuing this through the 2023 NFL season. Be kind and respectful to others, and most of all, be kind and respectful to yourself. You're the number one person in this world. Nobody matters more than you do. Let's go ahead and switch over here, and we are going to go ahead and get into this game. Let me click on full screen here for a second for you guys, and I'm actually going to close that out for a second while we start this off. The first game, we've got the Houston Texans that are ranked number 15 on the NFL.com Power Rankings with a 4-4 record and are second in the AFC South. The Texans are 1-3 on the road, though, and they are going to Cincinnati to play the Bengals, which are number 9 on the power ranking list, and they have a 5-3 record, last in the AFC North, one of the strongest divisions in football, and they have a 3-1 record at home. Let me go ahead and get my camera pulled back up here now that we've gotten through that. It's still covering up a little bit of it, but go ahead and pause that if you want to. Every single game I'm going to go ahead and pause it while I have it here for you guys. But I just started it this week of doing this different format. But let's go ahead and get into the stats. The Texans on offense, they have 351.1 total yards per game, 264.1 passing yards per game, and 87 rushing yards per game. They have 18 touchdowns this year, 15 receiving and 3 rushing. They have 23.4 points per game, which is 11th in the league, 104.1 QBR, which is 3rd in the league, and the offensive line has only allowed 18 sacks, so they're doing great with that. The turnovers, they've only given up 1 interception and 4 fumbles. They're the stat leaders on offense, they got C.J. Stroud, Damian Pierce, and Nico Collins. C.J. has 173 completions on 279 attempts, 2,270 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He has a great ratio. He's having a great season. And he had a record-breaking game last week. So good things are going for this Texans offense, and I love to see it and everything. Let's get over to the Bengals side. The Bengals, they have 291.9 total yards per game, 216 passing yards per game, 75.9 rushing yards per game. They have 15 touchdowns. They have 12 receiving and 3 rushing. They've got 19.4 points per game and a QBR of 90.3. Their points per game is 23rd in the league, and the QBR is 15th in the league. But this metric is a little weird to look at. The offensive line also has only allowed 18 sacks on their side. But the points per game and the QBR is a little weird because Burrow was dealing with a calf injury, and now we see that he's healthy. We'll see how all of that pans out. But the turnovers, they're doing great when it comes to turnovers. They've only given up 4 interceptions and 2 fumbles. The stat leaders on the Bengals offense, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, and Jamar Chase. Burrow has 206 completions on 308 attempts, 1,861 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Damian Pierce has Joe Mixon has 28 carries 490 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Jamar Chase has 64 catches, 697 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And that might be 126 carries. I'm not sure. I got to figure out how to make this clearer when it comes over to the PDFs that I make. This is tight when deciding these two offenses and everything, but honestly, I'm going to give it to C.J. Stroud and the Texans. I know the Bengals are very violent, and they have a lot of weapons over there. Jamar Chase, as far as I know, is dealing with his own injury now, and Joe Burrow is getting healthier. But I'm going to take the Texans all day when you look at both of these teams. Let's move on to the defense. The Texans, they allow 335 total yards per game, 238 passing yards per game, and 97 rushing yards per game. They've only allowed 17 touchdowns this year, 7 receiving and 10 rushing. They have 20.6 points per game that they've allowed, which is tied for 14th, and 94 for QBR allowed, which is tied for 21st. And they have 17 sacks on defense. Not really the greatest in that department, tied for 26. So turnover-wise, they're not doing too well either, but they do have a positive turnover differential of +5 because on defense they have 4 interceptions and 6 fumbles. The Bengals defense, they allow 364 total yards per game, 234.3 passing yards per game, and 129.7 rushing yards per game. Doing good, kind of good in that aspect, but rankings-wise, they are still low if you want to look at the rankings. Just trying to get through these videos. When I compare them, I'll talk about the rankings. But yeah, 10 receiving, 7 rushing touchdowns, 20.3 points per game allowed, and 82.2 QBR allowed. That is 12th in the league for points per game and 8th in the league for QBR. And they are tied for 15th in the league with 22 sacks. Their turnovers are a little bit better. Kind of. But they are tied for best in the league with the Chargers with 11 interceptions and 4 fumbles to make a +9. +9 turnover differential for the Bengals. One of those interceptions has been returned for a pick 6. So they've got 1 defensive touchdown. Going to the special teams and the schedule, all this other stuff that we've got all this other fun stuff that we've got on the bottom of here. Younghoe Koo with the Texans. He's 19 for 20 for field goals and 14 for 14 for extra points. He has 71 points. The Texans also have a kickoff return for a touchdown. The Bengals, Evan McPherson is 12 for 15 on field goals and 17 for 17 on his extra points. He has 53 points this year. And there is 1 punt return touchdown over on the Bengals side. Let's look at the schedules, and we've got the Texans who have lost to the Ravens, Colts, Falcons, and Panthers. They have beat the Jaguars, Steelers, Saints, and Buccaneers. So kind of expected. That Panthers loss was a little bit questionable, but came back and pulled off a win against the Buccaneers. Again, C.J. Stroud, record game there from him. Love to see it. Over on the Bengals side, they've lost to the Browns, Ravens, Titans, beat the Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks, 49ers, and Bills, and they've been doing really great the past 4 weeks. Joe Burrow getting healthy. Hopefully that helps them defensive numbers out. Go back up here. Yardage-wise, because of the fact that Houston's ranked number 10 in the league for rushing, I don't see that really being anything, though, here. Looking back up, Cincinnati Bengals, they are worst in the league when it comes to rushing the ball. So being 24th in the league with passing is going to be really difficult for the Texans. They don't give up a lot of touchdowns, though. They're second in the league when it comes to receiving touchdowns. And points per game, they're kind of middle of the road. That quarterback QBR that's allowed is kind of concerning, but we will see. Turnover differential, the turnover wise, the Bengals definitely have the advantage. ESPN has the Bengals winning. Vegas has over under at 46.5, and the Bengals favored by 6.5. So I'd go ahead and agree with the favor with them with the Bengals being favored in this one, but I kind of feel like C.J. Stroud might just continue his excellence, or what if he does end up getting shut down by the Cincinnati defense? Really not quite sure. Because of the fact that 20.3 points per game allowed by the Cincinnati Bengals defense and 23.4 points per game by the Texans, where the Bengals have 19.4 points per game and it's 20.6 points per game allowed by the Texans. So yeah, I can see it, and I'll agree to it with it to a point. But I kind of have a gut feeling that this one might be an upset. So where's that under 46.5? I feel it's going to be close. Well, I'll go ahead and take that over actually. Um, and we're going to go ahead and go over what the points per game allowed and points per game, just with the statistics that I have here, just to bump it up a little bit because I'm going to give the Bengals 24. Yeah, we'll go. We'll bet Bengals 24 and the Texans. We'll give them 30. So both teams get a little bit more than their average points per game, and both defenses go over what their average points per game allowed. But I feel like in Cincinnati, C.J. Stroud's starting to get a little bit more of the playbook. Whatever it is that they're doing, it's doing well for C.J. Stroud. So we'll go ahead and lock that in. 30-24. Texans beat the Bengals in Cincinnati. Pull off the upset. So I feel it. Just like Nico Collins, he's been doing good. Yeah. Let's move on to the next game. And while we do that, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna close that. Take the camera off so you guys can go ahead and get a good view of that. In this game, we have the New Orleans Saints that are ranked number 13th on the NFL.com power ranking list with a 5-4 record and first in the NFC South. They have a 3-2 record on the road. They are going to Minnesota to face the Vikings, who are number 17 on the NFL.com power rankings list with a 5-4 record as well. Calm down, phone. All right, you're just gonna get shut off if you're gonna keep on doing that. That's fucking wild. Excuse my language, but yeah. Anyway, 5-4 record. They are second in the NFC North with a 1-3 record at home. So it's already kind of looking a little bit better just from what I've seen this year. But go ahead and pause it right there if you want to look at the stats. But we're gonna bring the camera back in. And hello, guys. But yeah. We're going to go ahead and get into this. New Orleans Saints offense, they have 343 total yards per game, 239.9 passing yards per game, and 103.9 rushing yards per game. They have 18 touchdowns this year, 11 receiving and 7 rushing. They have 21.7 points per game, which is 15th in the league, and 89.5 for a quarterback rating, which is 16th in the league. The offensive line has allowed 21 sacks, so that's kind of middle of the road. Kind of want to keep an eye on that as it goes along. But, I mean, they're not doing terrible this year. Turnover-wise, they have the Saints have 5 interceptions and 5 fumbles that they've given up, and their stat leaders have got Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, and Chris Olave. Carr has 207 completions on 316 attempts, 2,121 yards, 10 touchdowns, and those 4 interceptions. Alvin Kamara has 95 carries, 346 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and Olave has 50 catches, 563 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Let's go ahead and go over to the Vikings. And the Vikings on offense, they have 354.8 total yards per game, 273.4 passing yards per game, and 81.3 rushing yards per game. They are ranked number 2 in the league when it comes to passing, but 29th when it comes to rushing. Their offense is all passing. So if the Saints secondary does its job and what they've been doing this year, it is going to be tough. But we'll see with Josh Dobbs in there. He came in and did pretty well, honestly, with Kirk Cousins going down with that Achilles tear. Completely unfortunate. Justin Jefferson looks like he's on his way back. So we'll see how that goes. And the Vikings have 22 touchdowns this year, 20 receiving and two rushing touchdowns. Again, very heavy on the passing. They have 22.9 points per game, which is 13th in the league, and 103.8 quarterback rating, which is 4th in the league. 22 sacks have been allowed, so a little bit alarming on how they've been allowing pressure to get to the quarterback. Turnover-wise, they've given up 5 interceptions and 12 fumbles. Ball security for the Vikings has been very big, very, very bad this season. But their stat leaders, since Kirk Cousins isn't in anymore, we got Josh Dobbs, Alexander Mattison, and TJ Hawkinson. Dobbs, he's 20 completions on 30 attempts, 158 yards, and 2 touchdowns with no interceptions yet. Alexander Mattison, 122 carries and 434 yards. And that's my alarm for the Hawkeye game that starts in just a little bit as I'm recording this on Saturday, but this is going to be posted Sunday morning. But continuing on, we got TJ Hawkinson that has 60 catches for 547 yards and 3 touchdowns. I do like the passing a lot over on the Vikings, but just the fact that they're well-rounded and already knowing the defense that they're gonna be going against. But if I'm gonna pick one of these offenses, I'm gonna pick the Vikings offense, especially with how Josh Dobbs came in there. He didn't even know his receivers' names, and he did that. 20 for 30, 158, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yardage could have been better, but look at what happened. Let's get over to the defense. In the Saints, they allow 304.3 total yards per game, 192 passing yards per game, and 112.3 rushing yards per game. They have given up 16 touchdowns this year, 12 receiving and 4 rushing. They allow 19 points per game, which is 7th in the league, and 72.2 quarterback rating is allowed, which is 2nd in the league. One of the reasons why I feel like it's going to be very tough for the Vikings in this game. The defense for the Saints has only got 17 sacks, so that lack of quarterback pressure from the Vikings is not going to seem like it's going to be an issue. Turnover-wise, the Saints have 12 interceptions and 6 fumbles for a turnover differential of +8, and one of those interceptions has been taken back for a touchdown. Over on the Vikings side, they allow 328 points per game, yards per game, 225 passing yards per game, and 102.6 rushing yards per game. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's calm down. They have allowed 19 touchdowns this year, 12 receiving and 7 rushing. They have allowed 21.1 points per game and allowed a QBR of 93.7. The points per game is 17th in the league, and the QBR is 20th in the league. They have 24 sacks, which is tied for 13th in the league, so might be a little bit of a thing there to watch, and might show itself to be a factor in this game. Turnover-wise for the Vikings, they have 7 interceptions and 5 fumbles for a turnover differential of -5 because of all those fumbles on offense. Going to the special teams, The Saints kicker is 18 for 23 on his field goals and 19 for 19 for extra points. I thought that they still had Lutz in last week's video, but turns out they have a rookie that they have picked up. I can't even remember his name. Now at this point, I guess I might as well just start putting their names in here so I can remember them. But the Saints also, they have one punt return for a touchdown. That's pretty good. The Vikings, their kicker is Greg Joseph, 13 for 17 on field goals and 21 for 23 on extra points. He has 60 points on the year. I didn't even put the points down there for the Saints kicker. Way to go. That's the one thing that I missed. I proofread everything, but I'll do the math on that here quick. Yeah, 73 points for the Saints kicker. But all right, let's get over here to the schedules. And the Saints, they have lost to the Packers, the Buccaneers, the Texans, and Jaguars. They have beat the Titans, Panthers, Patriots, Colts, and Bears. So expected wins and a couple of questionable losses on the Saints side. But that Packers loss, Jordan Love came out of nowhere. That 1 point loss that they had was unfortunate, but it happens. Over on the Vikings side, they've lost to the Buccaneers, Eagles, Chargers, Chiefs. They beat the Panthers, but the last 4 games they have won in a row. They beat the Bears, 49ers, Packers, and Falcons. So a little bit of a surprise to beat the 49ers, but glad to see that the Vikings were able to pull off wins against those other teams. Bears, kind of expected. Packers, kind of expected. Falcons, that one was a surprising win last week, watching that one. And the ESPN's got it 50-50. Vegas has the over-under at 40.5, and the Saints favored by 3 points. I mean, the Saints being favored by 3 points is a little bit disrespectful. I have a feeling like the Saints defense is going to shut this down. And the Vikings defense, 21.1 points per game allowed. And the Saints have 21.7 points per game. I feel like the Saints are going to be right on their average, but the Vikings, they're gonna struggle. So, yeah, I've got the Saints winning this one, getting to 3-3 on the road. Score-wise, again, I'm going with the under on this one. And for the score, though, I'm just gonna sit at 21 for the Saints, and then for the Vikings, give them 13. 21 to lock that in. 21-13, Saints beat the Vikings in Minnesota. That's how I feel. All right, 4 more games to go. In this next one, we got the Packers and the Steelers. Let me go ahead and take away my camera real quick while I say these. The Green Bay Packers are going to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. And the Green Bay Packers, they are ranked number 23 on the NFL.com power ranking list with a 3-5 record and 3rd in the NFC North. They are 1-3 on the road. In Pittsburgh, they are ranked number 14 on the NFL.com ranking list with a 5-3 record, 2nd in the AFC North, and they are 3-2 at home. I don't really see there being much fight out of the Packers in this one. Let's go ahead and go ahead and pause it if you need to. And now we're going to bring back the camera. All right, there's my camera. Hello, everybody. But yeah, I feel like the Steelers might have this just initially knowing how these two teams have played. The Steelers are at home. Packers aren't doing that well. They're just underwhelming this season. It's unfortunate. I wanted to see Jordan Love do better than what he is doing. But let's go through the numbers. And for the Packers, their offense has 300 total yards per game, flat even, 199.6 passing yards per game, and 100.4 rushing yards per game. They have scored 17 touchdowns this year, 12 receiving, and 5 rushing. They have 20 points per game, which is 20th in the league, and 82.1 QBR, which is 22nd in the league. Their offensive line has only allowed 18 sacks, which is tied for 7th in the league. And turnover-wise, they have given up 8 interceptions and 2 fumbles. The stat leaders for the Packers, we have Jordan Love, A.J. Dillon, and Jaden Reed. Jordan Love has 155 completions on 260 attempts, 1,720 yards, 12 touchdowns, and those 8 interceptions. So just, again, underwhelming performance out of Jordan Love this year. And it's just kind of led the Packers offense and the whole entire team to just seem underwhelming when I wanted to see them actually put up a fight in the NFC North. I mean, they still are 3-5. They're still winning games, but A.J. Dillon has 94 carries on 306 yards and 1 touchdown. Jaden has 23 catches, 333 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So, again, the offensive line's doing well. Turnover-wise, other than the interceptions, they're doing good. Yardage, not so well. But just underwhelming performance. And then we go over to the Steelers that just had Mike Tomlin and an all-right defense and a great turnover differential. But the Steelers offense, they have 278.5 total yards per game, 188 passing yards per game, and 90.5 rushing yards per game. They have only scored 11 touchdowns this year. They have 7 receiving and 4 rushing touchdowns. They are 29th in the league with 16.6 points per game, 26th in the league with the 78.2 quarterback rating, and the offensive line has allowed 19 sacks, which is getting close to middle of the road. Turnover-wise, they're not doing too bad. 6 interceptions and 2 fumbles, so couple of touchdowns less. I mean, not really good, but not. They're doing better than the Packers are. But their stat leaders, we got Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris, and George Pickens. Kenny, he's got 141 completions on 230 attempts, 1,490 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Najee, he has 100 carries on 382 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pickens, he has 30 receptions, 521 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Just mid-tier both offenses, but honestly, if you're going to look at it, Packers actually, even with the turnovers, Packers look like the better offense. So let's just go ahead and get on to the defense, since these two teams are, I don't even understand how with the numbers for yards that this in points per game and everything, how the Steelers have a 5-3 record. How Mike Tomlin does it, I don't know, but sorry about that. Message just came through that was urgent. Yeah, you guys get to see my background. Just take the Packers. Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's great, so that'd be the reason why I'd say that this is that I'm just confused. I'm good. Good job, Steelers. Let's go on to the let's get to the defense. Packers, they allowed 320.1 total yards per game, 196.1 passing yards per game, and 124 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 8 receiving touchdowns and 7 rushing touchdowns, 15 touchdowns altogether, and 10th in the league with 19.9 points per game allowed and 86.7 QBR allowed, which is 13th in the league. They are 21st with 20 sacks 21st in the league with 20 sacks. And turnover-wise, the defense has 5 interceptions and 3 fumbles. So Not really good there. One of those interceptions has been returned for a pick six. But going over to the Steelers defense, they allow 377.3 total yards per game, 244.1 passing yards per game, and 133.1 rushing yards per game. They have also allowed 15 touchdowns, 10 receiving, and 5 rushing. They allow 20.4 points per game, which is 13th in the league and 9th in the league with 82.9 quarterback rating allowed. They are 9th in the league with 26 sacks. And turnover wise, they have 8 interceptions and 8 fumbles, as you can see right there. And 1 fumble recovery for a touchdown, 1 pick six, and 1 safety for the Steelers. The Packers have a turnover differential of -2. The Steelers, they have a turnover differential of +8. So the turnovers are definitely in the Steelers' favor. And the Packers kicker, he is 11 for 13 on his field goals, 15 for 15 on extra points. He's got 48 points off of his foot. And Boswell with the Steelers, 14 for 15 for field goals and 11 for 11 extra points. That is 55 points that he has. Schedule-wise, the Packers have lost to the Falcons and Lions, Raiders, Broncos, and Vikings. They beat the Bears, Saints, and Rams. So just a couple of surprising victories. Again, underwhelming performance from the Packers this year. And then we go over to the Steelers that have worse numbers but a better record. The Steelers have lost to the Niners, Texans, and Jags, so no surprise there. They beat the Browns, Raiders, Ravens, Rams, and Titans. So the only one really there that was surprising was the Ravens. It's just been an easy schedule on their part. Just looking over everything. ESPN has the Steelers favored, and Vegas has the over-under at 38.5, and the Steelers favored by 3.5. Yeah, Steelers are going to figure out a way to win this one. And points per game are going to be where I kind of go into this. And this is another. Actually, 38 and a half. We get over that. I'm going to go ahead and give the over on that one. 24-17 is how I feel like this one. Steelers 24, Packers 17. So lock in 24-17. Steelers win at home over the Packers. And we're halfway, and we're almost there. We are halfway done. We have 3 more games left. You go ahead and do that. And let's go ahead and get rid of the camera here so you guys can see this and everything, and go ahead and pause it if you want to. For this game, we have the Tennessee Titans that are going to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. And the Titans, they are ranked number 22 on the power rankings list on NFL.com with a 3-5 record, last in the AFC South, and they have not won on the road yet. They are 0-4 on the road. The Buccaneers, they are ranked number 21 on the power rankings list on NFL.com with a 3-5 record. They are 3rd in the NFC South, and they are 1-3 at home. And again, go ahead and take that in. We're going to bring the camera back now. Boop, there we go. And here I'm back. And the Titans offense, we have 302 total yards per game, 187.5 passing yards per game, and 114.5 rushing yards per game. They have 13 touchdowns this year, 7 receiving and 6 rushing. 18.5 points per game, which is 24th in the league, and 81.6 QBR, which is 23rd in the league. The offensive line has only allowed 13 sacks, which is tied for 2nd in the league. And turnover-wise, they've only given up 7 interceptions and 2 fumbles. 6 of those interceptions were through Tannenhill or Malik. We're on to Will Levis now. And I know that those stats look a little bit weird, but I had to make do with what I've got. But for the Titans, they have Will Levis that's starting quarterback now. Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins are their stat leaders. Will Levis, he's got 22 completions on 39 attempts, 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. Derrick Henry has 137 carries, 601 yards for 4 touchdowns. And Nuke has 35 catches, 584, or 64. That's 64 yards and 3 touchdowns. Over on the Buccaneers side, they have 302.5 total yards per game, 224.3 passing yards per game, and 78.3 rushing yards per game. They have 15 touchdowns this year, 12 receiving and 3 rushing. They have 19.8 points per game, which is tied for 21st, and 92.4 QBR, which is 14th in the league. So good job, Baker, on that. The offensive line, though, has allowed 29 sacks. I feel like that actually got flipped around. No, the Titans gave up 29 sacks. I feel like. Give me a second here. Yeah, we'll pull this list up here and I'll see what's going on. Yeah, I have that flip flop. Sorry, everybody. So the Titans have 29 sacks that they've allowed, so that's over on that side, and the Buccaneers are second in the league. So, yeah. Sorry about that. Turnover wise, doing great. 4 interceptions and 3 fumbles. Baker Mayfield, the stat leaders, we got Baker Mayfield, Rachaad White, and Mike Evans. Baker, he's got 179 completions on 276 attempts, 1,865 yards, and 12 touchdowns on those 4 interceptions. Rachaad White has 112 carries, 378 yards, and 3 touchdowns, and Mike Evans has 37 catches, 594 yards, and 5 touchdowns on the year. So I'm going with the Buccaneers offense. They haven't allowed sacks. I know that's flip-flopped around, but just hopefully you guys can get it. That's switched around. That's my bad. But yeah, we're taking the Buccaneers, and they're at home too, and it's against the Titans. Let's move on to the defensive stats. The Titans have allowed 337.8 total yards per game, 223 passing yards per game, and 114.8 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 13 touchdowns this year, 8 receiving and 5 rushing. They are 11th in the league with 20 points per game allowed and 27th in the league with a 98.2 quarterback rating allowed. They have 21 sacks, which is tied for 17th in the league. And turnover-wise, the Titans only have 2 interceptions and 4 fumbles. So really underwhelming there. And they have also given up a lot of interceptions. Thankfully, Will Levis has only given up 1 interception in the couple of games that he's played. Over on the Buccaneers side for defense, they allowed 372.3 total yards per game, 279.4 passing yards per game, and 92.9 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 17 touchdowns this year, and 16th in the league with 20.9 points per game allowed, 25th in the league with a 96.9 QBR allowed. And they're also tied for 17th with 21 sacks. They've got 7 interceptions and 8 fumbles on defense, so that's good for them. And they've got 1 pick 6 that they've returned for a touchdown. So yeah, I'm going on the Buccaneers side with the defense. Points per game is a little bit more, but that in the quarterback rating, but interception turnover wise, Buccaneers are +8. Tennessee's -3. I feel like that's going to be a major factor, even though Tennessee's kicker is 19 for 19 on field goals and 13 for 13 on extra points. He has not missed yet this year. He has 70 points. And the Buccaneers kicker, 15 for 17 for field goals and 13 for 13 on extra points. He has 58 points this year. Schedule-wise, the Titans have lost to the Saints, Browns, Colts, Ravens, and Steelers, and they have beat the Chargers, Bengals, and Falcons. So a little bit of a mixed bag there. Buccaneers side, they've lost to the Eagles, Lions, Falcons, Bills, and Texans, and they beat the Vikings, Bears, and Saints. But that was the beginning of the season. They have lost 4 in a row. It is starting to look alarming, but all of these teams, like the Lions, the Bills, the Texans, and you can argue that the Falcons is a difficult team to go up against. It's just unfortunate when you see the teams that once they actually get to the difficult part of their schedule, it's just like, oh wait, they're actually not that good. But I feel like the Buccaneers are good. They just kind of got a little bit of a smack in the face, if you want my opinion. ESPN has the Buccaneers favored, and Vegas has the over/under at 39.5. Buccaneers are favored by 2.5, and I feel like the Buccaneers are going to win this one as well. The over/under on that one, though, points per game wise, doesn't look like we're going to hit that, and I know that it doesn't look like it, but I'm going to go ahead and take the over on this one. And, real quick, I'm going to go Buccaneers 21, Tennessee Titans 13. I'm going to lock that in. 21-13, Buccaneers beat the Titans. Take that over. Or wait, that 21-13. Take that under. Take that under. Almost messed that up. Take that under. Math's difficult. Sorry about that, guys. Alright. Last page. Let me go ahead and get the camera turned off for you so you guys can go ahead and pause that. And we've got this one correct at least. This game we got the 49ers that are going to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars, and the Niners are ranked number 7 on the power rankings list at NFL.com. 5-3 is their record, and they are first in the NFC West. They are 2-2 on the road. And the Jaguars, they're ranked number 4 on the NFL.com power rankings list with a 6-2 record and 2-2 at home. They are first in the AFC South. So, big game in general. Again, go ahead and take a look at that. I'm going to bring the camera back now. Hello, everybody. Well, big game here, and I feel like the Jacksonville Jaguars need this one. Like, the Jacksonville Jaguars have been red hot. They need this one, and I feel like they're going to get it. They are hungry, and I feel like just the way that the 49ers have been sliding, it's just going to continue. But let's get into the numbers. On the offense, the 49ers have 376.6 total yards per game, 243.1 passing yards per game, and 133.5 rushing yards per game. They have 26 touchdowns this year, 12 receiving and 14 rushing. They have 27.3 points per game, which is 4th in the league, and 105.3 quarterback rating, which is 2nd in the league. And the offensive line has only allowed 14 sacks. That is 4th in the league. And turnover-wise, they only have 5 interceptions and 4 fumbles that they've given up on offense. The stat leaders, they have Purdy, McCaffrey, and Ayuk. Brock Purdy has 153 completions on 224 attempts, 2,033 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. CMC has 137 carries, 652 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Brandon Ayuk has 35 catches, 620 yards, and 2 touchdowns this year. So, they are doing great at the beginning of it, and then all of a sudden, they had a tough defense with the Browns. Couple other losses later, and we're seeing some problems that are coming out of the 49ers. And I don't see the problem stopping in Jacksonville. This team's red hot and they want it. And I feel like they're going to get it. The Jaguars on offense, they have 341.4 total yards per game, 228.9 passing yards per game, and 112.5 rushing yards per game. They have 18 touchdowns this year, 9 receiving and 9 rushing. They're 10th in the league with 24.1 points per game, 93.8 quarterback rating, which is 12th in the league, and the offensive line has allowed 19 sacks, which is tied for 12th. Turnover-wise, they have 4 interceptions and have fumbled the ball 9 times, so ball security a little bit of an issue. But their stat leaders, we got Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne Jr., and Christian Kirk. Trevor, he's got 185 completions on 271 attempts, 1,935 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Etienne has 151 carries on 583 yards and 7 touchdowns. Christian Kirk has 43 catches, 520 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So, I mean, yeah, if you look at it, 49ers got the better offense. But let's go over to the defensive side of the ball. The 49ers, they allow 315 total yards per game, 228.9 passing yards per game, and 86.1 rushing yards per game. So they are 5th in the league when it comes to allowing the run. That's a big highlight to have there. They've allowed 14 touchdowns this year, 10 receiving, and 4 rushing. They only allow 17.5 points per game, which is 4th in the league, and 80.8 quarterback rating allowed, which is 6th in the league. They have 18 sacks, though, on defense, which is only tied for 24th in the league. And turnover-wise, they do have 11 interceptions, but they only have 2 fumbles. A little bit questionable there. They can't knock the ball loose to save their life. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they allow 342.8 total yards per game and 263.5 passing yards per game, 79.3 rushing yards per game. So they're a little bit better than that. They are 3rd in the league when it comes to allowing the run. They have allowed 16 touchdowns this year, 11 receiving, and 5 rushing. They're at 19.5 points per game allowed, which is tied for 8th in the league, and 79.2 quarterback rating allowed, which is 5th in the league. They have 16 sacks on the defense, which is 30th, so they are at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to sacks. But they also have 11 interceptions and 7 fumbles on the defense. 2 of those interceptions have came back for touchdowns, so they're getting points on defense too. Going to the kickers, before we go to the kickers, the turnover differential for the 49ers is +4. For the Jaguars, it's +5, so it's a little bit better over on the Jaguars side. Messed up and didn't put the points in for the Jaguars this time. I just messed up on putting in the special teams points. Again, I apologize, everybody. But for the 49ers, their kicker is 12 for 15 on field goals, 26 for 26 on extra points. He has 62 points this year. The Jags kicker is 17 for 19 on field goals, 18 for 18 on extra points. He has 69 points this season. Nice score. Schedule-wise, the Niners didn't lose until just recently, and they lost to the Browns, Vikings, and Bengals. They have beat the Steelers, Rams, Giants, Cardinals, and Cowboys. So you can look at those, and the Niners are going to win those. And then all of a sudden, they had a little bit of difficulty. 2 AFC North teams. Vikings is a questionable loss, but they still ended up losing. The Jaguars, they lost to the Chiefs and the Texans. That was at the beginning of the year, and these guys are the opposite. They are red hot right now. They beat the Colts and the Falcons in the last 4 weeks. They beat the Bills, Colts, Saints, and Steelers. So, either way you look at it, I don't know, like strength of schedule wise, I just know that I've been watching these games, and the energy that's coming from the Jaguars is just amazing lately. ESPN has the 49ers favored. The over-under is 44.5, and the 49ers are favored by 3 points. But I'm going to go against that. I'm picking the Jaguars. And the defense, it's going to be a little bit weird. The numbers, like, I know the numbers say the 49ers, and I'm going to go completely against the numbers on this one. And we're going to go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and spout off. The Jaguars are going to get 27 points. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead 27-17. So that puts it at that puts it right at the under. I'm going to go lock that in. Jaguars 27-17. Lock it in. Jaguars beat the 49ers. And on to our last game that we've got for part 1 of our Sunday videos, the last noon game. And of course, we save the Browns game for the last game. The Cleveland Browns, they are ranked number 10 on the power ranking list with a 5-3 record and third in the AFC North. They are 1-2 on the road. So we will see. The Ravens, they are ranked number 2 on the NFL.com power rankings list. They have a 7-2 record and are first in the AFC North with a record of 3-1 at home. Go ahead and take a look at those. All of those stats, and let's bring the camera back. Hello. The Browns on offense, they have 328.3 total yards per game, 184.1 passing yards per game, and 144.1 rushing yards per game. They have 16 touchdowns this year, 7 receiving and 9 rushing, and 22.5 points per game, which is 14th in the league. But their quarterback rating is 66.2. That is the worst in the league. The offensive line has allowed 24 sacks. That's tied for 23rd in the league. And turnover-wise, we've given up the Browns have given up 11 interceptions and 6 fumbles. Stat leaders on the Browns, we got Deshaun Watson, Jerome Ford, and Amari Cooper. Watson, he's got 85 completions on 137 attempts, 902 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Ford, he's got 107 carries, 425 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Amari Cooper, he has 35 catches, 617 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Just not good this year. The rushing is still there, but just not a good offense this year. And it's all because of the quarterback situation. Definitely should not have gone out. Deshaun Watson's looked good statistically wise in the last couple of games, and let's hope that continues. But historically, quarterbacks have been bad. Moving on to the Ravens offense, they have 369 total yards per game, 208.7 passing yards per game, and 160.3 rushing yards per game. They overtook the Dolphins. They are the best in the league when it comes to running the ball. They have 27 touchdowns, which 10 receiving and 17 rushing. They are tied for best in the league also with rushing touchdowns. They have 26.6 points per game, which is 6th in the league, 101.3 QBR, which is 6th in the league, and the offensive line has allowed 21 total sacks. So middle of the road there. Turnover-wise, they have 3 interceptions and 9 fumbles. They could secure the ball a little bit more, but at least Lamar isn't throwing interceptions. Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, and Mark Andrews are the stat leaders for them. And Lamar Jackson, has 181 completions on 253 attempts, 1,954 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Gus Edwards, he has got 110 carries for 478 yards and 7 touchdowns. Mark Andrews has 41 catches for 477 yards and 6 touchdowns. Taking the Ravens offense all day. They got the points per game, best rushing yards per game, touchdowns, quarterback rating, all of it on the Ravens side. I'm a Browns fan. This is in the Ravens' favor, and I'm really not even upset because honestly, I've got Ravens top in the AFC North, top in the AFC, top in the whole entire league. With the clunkiness of the Eagles, they're the only ones that have a question. Well, not the only other ones. The Chiefs are, but when it comes down to it, if the Ravens have a bad game, they still win the game. And the Chiefs, Pat Mahomes has a bad game and they lose to the Broncos. And not only do they lose to the Broncos, but bad. So anybody out there, if you got, go ahead and hit the comments on that. But I will argue all day with anybody that wants to say that the Chiefs are number one in the league right now. Sorry, but it's been proven on the tape that when the shit hits the fan, the Ravens still come out victorious. Chiefs, they lose. Simple enough. Eagles have a better record than the Ravens, so that's part of the argument. But Eagles are clunky this year, and I'm not trying to say that the Ravens aren't clunky, but again, it just when it comes down to it, in my opinion, out of the AFC North. Yeah, let's move on to the defense. These two defenses, it's going to be crazy because we've got number 1 and number 2 playing each other this week. Arguably, Browns have the yardage, Ravens got the points. It's debatable who's the best. But the Browns, they allow 234.8 total yards per game, 145 passing yards per game, and 89.8 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 15 touchdowns this year, 8 receiving and 7 rushing. They allow 17.4 points per game, which is third in the league, and 73.2 quarterback rating is allowed, which is third in the league. They have 27 sacks, which is tied for 7th. Turnover-wise, they have 7 interceptions and 6 fumbles, and one of those fumbles has been recovered for a touchdown. So, again, yardage-wise and points-wise, they're not that far behind, but Baltimore Ravens, they're right there with them when it comes to yardage. The Ravens, they allow 262 total yards per game, 170.7 passing yards per game, and 91.9 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 9 touchdowns this year, 6 receiving and 3 rushing. That's 13.8 points per game that's been allowed, best in the league. 69.7 quarterback rating allowed, best in the league. A league best 35 sacks, and they have 1 safety as well. Turnover-wise, they have 9 interceptions and 4 fumbles. So with all the turnovers on offense, the Browns are -4 on their differential, but the Ravens still hold +1 for their turnover differential. Again, a lot of this just all points in the Ravens' way. I can wish for an upset, but I'm not going to predict an upset. This is definitely going to be a Ravens game. They're at home. They've already manhandled us before, and it's just going to be round 2. I just hope that we can salvage something to learn out of the game. But the Browns, Dustin Hopkins, he's 20 for 23 on field goals and 13 for 13 on extra points. He has 73 points this year. And Justin Tucker, he is 16 for 19 on field goals and 25 for 26 on extra points, which is 73 points as well for the Ravens kicker. And schedule-wise, Browns, they've lost to the Steelers, Ravens, and Seahawks, but they beat the Bengals, Titans, 49ers, Colts, and Cardinals. Ravens, they've lost to the Colts, Steelers, but they have won against the Texans, Bengals, Browns, Titans, Lions, Cardinals, and Seahawks. ESPN has this heavily favored in the Ravens. The over-under, Vegas has it at 38.5, and the Ravens are favored by 6.5. Yeah, I don't see the Ravens having to put up a lot of points. I don't see the Browns scoring a lot of points. It's going to be another under game for me. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go 24-10, honestly, and I don't know if that's disrespecting my guys. Again, I hope that you guys do it, but this is more of a kind of ode to how well the Ravens have been doing this season. And their rivals, and I've got to give them respect, though. But that's 24-10. Lock that in. Ravens beat the Browns. And that's all that is there for the predictions. Go ahead and watch out for those injuries that are out there. Let me go ahead and get up over here. I did actually pull up. Let's go over here. $150. All right. There we go for the injuries for the Texans-Bengals game. Go ahead and pause it if you need it. And then we'll go over to the Saints and Vikings game. Here are the injuries here. Looks like Justin Jefferson is still on the IR, so he's not going to be coming back just yet. KJ Osborne and TJ Hawkinson are questionable. So key injuries that are there for the Vikings. Here we have the Packers and Steelers matchup. Fitzpatrick's going to be out. Freiermuth is still on IR. Quay Walker and Jair Alexander being doubtful. That could definitely. Kenny Clark, Rudy Ford being questionable. Definitely things to watch out for. And injuries are just something else because, again, this is a Saturday afternoon that I'm recording. You guys are going to be getting this on Sunday morning, though. So just pay attention. And if you got any of these guys in fantasy. But injury-wise, going into the games, when I make my predictions before, I already know which ones are like the notable injuries and people that are going to be in and out with that one. I just come back to this one to show a full comprehensive, well, not a full one, but a summary that they have on ESPN. Hopefully they don't get mad that I'm using their stuff, but Titans, they got Traylon Burks and Sean Murphy Bunting that are out. Tannenhill, I mean, might come back, but I'd just keep Will Levis in there. Jamel Dean, questionable. Logan Hall. Trey Palmer for the Buccaneers. Some people to look out for. There we got, there's Drake Jackson being out. Javon Hargrave, questionable if he doesn't play. That's a big one. DF, Demetrius Flanagan, fouls. Trent Williams. So you got to watch out for that. Cisco, Campbell, and Thomas for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Zay Jones is ruled out. So he will not be playing. And last but not least, we have the Browns and Ravens. And Greg Newsome is questionable. Pierre Strong's questionable. We won't have David Bell or Marquise Goodwin. DeJuan Jones is out. And we're already down Jedrick Wills. So offensive line's already going to be just worse. And the Ravens just got a bunch of questionable guys. Keaton Mitchell, Marlon Humphrey, and Morgan Moses. But yeah. You can go ahead and go back and forth on those as well. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. And again, thank you guys for watching. I had a blast with this video as I do every single other video. If I look a little bit different, don't let that deter me. But if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and explore the other content on the channel. Hit the subscribe button, become part of the Beansworthy Entertainment family. Be kind and respectful to others, and most of all, be kind and respectful to yourself. You are the number one person in this world. Nobody matters more than you do. Thank you guys for stopping by. I'll see you next time.